What is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue with an Electrode? We are on Loreley. So Electrode has great speed and great special. In Generation 1, special attack and special defense are tied, so that is important. I don't believe Electrode is near as good in later games as he is right here. His defense is not very good at all. Um, the idea for this run is to give you maybe a little more insight into what they look like on my end. So maybe a little more detail. I see a lot of questions in the comments. So just to maybe get some clarity on some of the mechanics in here. So, you always have to start off, what level do I think I can reasonably beat the game at? And obviously, as you're watching this right here, Loreley is not a problem. She's basically a water type gym leader aside from Jinx, and I'm an electric Pokemon that moves fast and has good special and one of the best, if not the best, electric move in the game. So I started this level not so much because I thought I had to beat Loreley, but more I was thinking about Bruno. So what am I going to do once I get to Bruno? The first thought is, okay, set up a reflect, and once you do that, there's not a whole lot that Onyx can do to you. And then if I mimic Harden, aside from Hitmonchan, he doesn't really use any special moves at all, so I should just be good to go. But then I get to Swifting. The initial thought is with the badge boost glitch that I would have, enough of a boost there to do something meaningful, but obviously that's not the case. So here I try to go for something cheeky. I didn't think it would work, but I had to try. I go for substitute, and then I'm going to go for an explosion just to see if something in the coding would make it work. And look at that. I do a lot of damage. My substitute breaks, and I'm not dead. So that's great. Just kidding. No, it did not work at all. But you never know if you don't try. So then I go ahead and I give it one more go here. I just want to see, is there anything that I can do if I go for Swift a little bit more? But it just doesn't work. So I got to think, what moves am I going to use, and what do I really need for lore release so I can get through without having to erase a move that I'm going to need later on in the run. So speed through that, and then we're back to Loreley. So we come back in. The first thing that you're going to note once we get loaded up here is my level. I started at a much lower level just because of how easy Loreley was the first time. I said, I don't need to be at that level to beat Loreley, and I might be able to get through Bruno at a lower level with this new strategy that I have cooking. So Dugong is going to almost always use sleep, so the first move you use really doesn't matter too much. You just want to do damage, so once the Dugong does use rest, you can knock it out in the appropriate amount of moves. So one thing that Electrode has going for it is its speed. Your critical hit ratio is tied to your base speed. Not your current speed, but your base speed. So the more base speed that the Pokemon has, the higher the odds that you are going to get a critical hit. So one of the reasons I want to make this longer form video here is there's something in this game in Generation 1 called the badge boost glitch. And I don't really believe it's a glitch, but more just the way they program the game. If it was an oversight or intended, I'm not really sure, but it does exist. Every time you get your stats changed, whether positive, so the withdrawal on my end, or the growl from the Slowbro, your stats will boost by 12.5% depending on which gym badges you have. When you beat a gym, some of them will say your attack has increased now. Well, that stat change gets applied again. So sometimes in some of the previous runs, you'll see me use Swords Dance to increase my speed. Well, obviously, Swords Dance increases attack, but I do also get a 12.5% boost in all other stats when I use that. So what we bring this up for is with Electrode's base speed being so good, and I'm going to crit more often, obviously I'm going to try to mimic either Withdraw or Amnesia from the Slowbro in order to kind of abuse that badge boost glitch mechanic in this game. But sometimes it's counterproductive to me where I get a critical hit and it actually does less damage. As you'll see with that Jinx there at the last battle, Jinx got a critical hit. I had all these withdrawals, but it still knocked me out just because critical hits bypass or ignore all their stat changes. So nothing is really ever free. I mean, Jinx is such a menace because she can freeze you. And in Generation 1, when you get frozen, you don't unfreeze. Jinx is also very fast, so Jinx also has a high critical hit chance. So even with all this, badge boosting, withdrawals, amnesias, what have you, um, it's never really free. One other thing to note about the whole badge boost situation is when you level up, you lose all of your badge boost. So really what I should have done in this is I should have gone to Victory Road and done a couple battles. So I leveled up after I beat Cloyster. So I would have the badge boost for Jinx and Lapras, but I don't. But I did, just basic amnesia was enough to one-shot the Jinx and then as well one-shot the Lapras. So we didn't need to go into all that, but just, kind of a note that would have been a little more optimal to do it that way. Had I been having a lot of difficulties with Lauralie, I would have done that, but I didn't need to. So on to Bruno here. So what move did I decide to use was Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom in the early game is very dangerous because it always does a set 20. I go ahead and I set up my Reflect just because Onyx really can't do a whole lot to me once I do that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and Sonic Boom my way through. And I am not going to end up mimicking Harden, which in a lot of my other runs, I mean, that's just a strat to do. You get very good defense against a mainly physical attacking trainer. And you typically get badge boosts and everything else, assuming you don't level up. But what I'm going to do is because I don't want to have to do all these Sonic Booms against the second Onyx, is once I am able to knock out this Onyx and the Hitmonchan comes out, I'm actually going to use my Mimic on the Ice Punch. Uh, Bruno in 9 out of 10 battles is so bad that sometimes I just don't even use all the hardens because I just don't have to. This is a particularly bad matchup for us. So if things were a little different, I would. However, in this one, I don't need to. So when Hitmonlee comes out, we're going to go for Thunderbolt. Ice Punch, as I mentioned with the Jinx ice moves, it is something to watch out for. And no, with Bruno being as bad as he is, I only have 12 HP left. So, I have to go for Ice Punch. And Onyx special is very bad with it being super effective. I don't even need the stab boost. And then I go ahead and I go for Ice Punch again. Leer, fine. One move, I'm out. Critical hit, Leer. I don't know what's going on here. I go for Thunder. I probably should have kept going for the Ice Punch. Misses. This was crazy. This was actually so awesome because that would have been a bummer to have to level up against Bruno. So that was very lucky, very happy to see that happen there. So now we're on to Agatha. Agatha's always a tricky one. She's probably one of my favorites, not because I like to battle her, but she does often make me have to think a little more. So I go for the Thunderbolt just because I want this Gengar gone. I really don't want to see a Nightshade. Hypnosis is awful because Gengar can just take you down. I mean, I think I get 3 Nightshades. Goes for a Dream Eater, uh, you know, and that's how a lot of these end up going. Is just hacks, 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 whichever way you want to look at it. And then Nightshade, it doesn't matter what Pokemon you're using, you typically get 2 or 3 of those things and you're done. Lucky for us, Agatha, she is a complete lottery. She has a 25% chance to do anything at any one time, and that does include switching out. So sometimes she's going to switch out just at very bad times. Sometimes she's going to use Dream Eater at just very bad times, which was great because it actually allowed me to go ahead and use Hypnosis on her through Mimic. Sleep is also very overpowered in Generation 1 because the turn you wake up, you don't get a move. So the accuracies are never very great on Hypnosis, so sometimes it's just better to go for it than to try to play with that. But to make Agatha do nothing is great. Every time she switches out, it's like a free turn for me. So now she's got a Golbat with no HP, can't really do anything. We've got a Haunter that's asleep, can't do anything. And so it's looking pretty good. However, Arbok, we're never really too worried about. But any Gengar or the Haunter, I mean, as you can see, it doesn't take a whole lot for them to just take you out from the first battle here. One thing that we haven't talked about yet is Electrode's move pool. Electro has a very, very shallow move pool. There's not a lot of great moves for it to learn. Thunderbolt is making work, and the high special of Electrode is great. But there's really not a lot of flexibility. Some of those Pokemon like Nidoking or Rhydon that can learn like I don't know, Surf and Thunderbolt and Ice Beam and Blizzard. I mean, it does make it a little more challenging because there are so many options available to us. So for a Pokemon that just kind of has a shallow move pool, it has been making its way through pretty good. So that's Agatha. Just lucked our way through that one. Now, Lance is also a pretty decent matchup. For two of the Pokemon, our main move is not very effective. But for the Gyarados, Aerodactyl, and the Dragonite, there is at least some level of super effectiveness going on between those three. So then, the question is, do we go for Reflect right away, anticipating a Hyper Beam, or do we just go for the Throat? Clearly Reflect, I mean, it was a critical hit, so it bypassed the Reflect. But I'm just not too sure that Reflect is the best option. But just having it set up is great. Then when we get that Leer, honestly, just wonderful. So then we can go for the Thunderbolt. And then now at any point, if the Dragonair does attack, we are pretty well protected. We think we want to go for Mimic, and we go, you know what? It's just not the right time. One thing, again, we talked about it, you always got to be mindful of when are we going to level up. So there's really no point for me to mimic a whole bunch of agilities and then just level up. So with this, because my move pool is so shallow, I thought the best thing to do would be let's get Dragon Rage. And that way we can kind of do like what we did against Onyx and just do a set amount. We keep the substitute up just because, again, Electrode's defense is so bad that one Hyper Beam and you're just out of there. So it's better to just take the little hit there and have some protection built up against the Hyper Beams. Hyper Potions are the absolute worst, especially in situations like this. It's better on the Dragonair than the Dragonite. However, it's just such a bummer when you see those happening. One strategy that you can use is you try to keep them out of range of healing. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but there's a certain percent they get to when using a Hyper Potion then becomes an option. So there we go. We level up to 50. We're trying to learn Explosion, obviously, with just one Pokemon. Nothing that we really want to take advantage of there. So then we're just going to go ahead and go for Dragon Rage, and we're just going to cross our fingers that we can get there. I go ahead and I cherry pick the good battles, or the battles that something exciting has happened here. But a lot of these battles do not go this well. It's clear to me that it doesn't look that way when you watch through the videos. But I probably battle these people 100 times each. Some obviously like Bruno easier than others, but I am often not getting past the Gyarados, or I'm dying on the Dragonair. I mean, not every single battle goes this far. I think depending on how things go, I'm going to do a little more longer form like this and show you some of the losses as well. So definitely let me know if you like this style better, or if you just like the quicker show the winning battle style better. Like and subscribe, comments. Honestly, even the people telling me that I'm doing something wrong, one, probably could be. There's a lot of things going on that you don't always see while you're kind of trying to run through 100 battles at once, but the comments do help. I mean, they really do. So then that's, to my point there, you work so hard, you get to the Dragon Knight, and if you can't beat the final one, then what was even the point here? So just trying to think on what do we want to do? Thunderbolt, 2 times super effective. So Gyarados, uh, we can either risk it and try to get it to use a Leer, but if the move is going to be to just substitute Dragon Rage, then there's not a whole lot of point to do the whole get a Leer, get a badge boost glitch on us. So much of I think, well, if we want to try to hit a paralyze, there's no shed skin in this game or anything like that. But it's just no matter what you do, it's going to be rough. And one other thing that comes up with Lance quite a bit is your power points. That other than Hyper Beam, there's not a great move that these Pokemon can use on me. However, uh, if you run out of power points by Dragonite and then Lance uses a Hyper Potion, I mean that's one very real thing that we have to keep in mind here. Honestly, at some point when you're at 23 HP, I mean it'd be fair to just reset here. But things like you saw on the Bruno, you can get lucky. Okay, so I'm going to condense about 6-7 minutes of film into 10 seconds here. I just keep losing. Obviously, I'm glitching out. I'm just going fast. You don't need to see it, but I'm losing over and over and over again. So we need to think of something different to do here. So if we look at the move pool now, you're going to see that I changed one move. I've got rest. So a common theme was I'm just, taking chip damage, taking a slam, taking Dragon Rage, taking these moves, having to use substitute. So the idea with substitute was to protect myself a little bit while not having to take a whole hyper beam. However, at this point, we're thinking, well, why don't we use rest? And what I can do then is every time I get low like this, I can just go ahead and heal up and you're going to sleep for about 2 or 3 turns, but between the different agilities and things like that, I would think that I'm going to be okay. So again, I'm going to speed up just a little bit here, but moral of the story is I rest, they knock me down. Sometimes I have to rest immediately after, but I'm kind of just waiting until I get a lucky string of events from them where I've got enough HP left over to continue on attacking. And it's working pretty good, and eventually I get to the Aerodactyl. So we'll slow it down a little bit here. Aerodactyl's a flying type, so we do pretty well. It does not have the best special out there. And then Dragonite's still a menace, really, no matter what we do. It's just a bulky person, or bulky dragon. But just some lucky moves like barrier, things like that. Basically anything that's not gonna threaten our lives here, we're doing pretty good. And we go ahead and knock out Dragonite. So rest was the strat that we were looking for there to finally make our way to Blue or Gary, whatever you want to call him. So Pidgeot, no problem. We've got the Thunderbolt. Something that we need to think about though is Alakazam has such good special. So what are we gonna do to take care of Alakazam? We can hope for a lucky paralysis. Um, we also did just level up there, which is perfect. We can go ahead. We could try to mimic recover. That's always an option. So also from Alakazam, just hoping for really anything but psychic. I mean, I'll take a recover all day. We're kind of thinking, well, we've got good special too. I don't exactly know what a psychic's going to do to me at this time, but if I can recover, kind of like the rest idea, it might be worth doing. Um, Reflect again. We're going to take that all day, and also down the road, we need to be thinking of what other Pokemon are we going to have a hard time against, like Executor. Do we have a move to beat Executor? Because if we're just doing Thunderbolt all day, is that really going to be what's best for us if we don't have a way to either heal or do more damage? So then Whirlwind in this game just as a free Whirlwind and Roar don't do anything when the opposing trainer uses them. But I went ahead and I mimicked Sky Attack. Alakazam has very bad physical. Glass Cannon is a common phrase used for Alakazam or the whole Abra line. And then I'm going to go for Sky Attack. So if we can get, a lucky turn one recover, something like that, we're going to be faring much better. Psybeam, don't love to see it, but not the end of the world. And then we're going to go in for a Thunderbolt, see if that'll do enough. But we do get the paralysis. But then Psybeam knocks us out. So what are we going to do? Well, how about instead of trying to mimic a physical move, which Pidgeot unfortunately just does not have the best move set for Mimic at this point. It does have agility before the Elite Four, which is a nice thing to have, but it does not have it now. So we're going to go ahead and learn Hyper Beam. Mimic is probably, as far as these runs go, the best move in the game. I would understand in a full run where it's not exactly the best, but in these ones it is. So we go for the Thunderbolt, we hit the critical full life, which is always really great going into Alakazam. And now we have the Hyper Beam. Something that is pretty sweet with Hyper Beam is when you knock out the opponent with Hyper Beam, you don't need to spend the turn to recover. So if you can get Alakazam maybe off a critical hit, which is ideal, you don't actually have to waste a turn recovering. So Alakazam is just loving recover right now. But honestly, it's fine. We'll just wait till the RNG does something different here. So Psychic, it's going to be what it's going to be. And then, now's the time to go in for a Hyper Beam. Not showing in the run, but unless you would get a critical hit or something, the Hyper Beam won't do enough to knock it out. Otherwise, obviously, you'd go for that first. So then we go ahead and we mimic Horn Drill. So that's going to be our move. Instead of trying to use Sky Attack, it's just go for the one-hit KO. If your base speed, or I think it's your current speed actually for this, isn't faster, you'll never hit with the Horn Drill. We're going to go for Thunderbolt and Arcanine. Arcanine's not that tough, but with us being this slow, it is a little scary, but Horn Drill's just not a reliable move there. And then we have Executor, which is scary, so we're going to Horn Drill, and we get so lucky. I was grinning ear to ear, I swear, on this one. And then Blast. Do we go for Horn Drill? Do we go for Thunderbolt? What's the move? Is Thunderbolt going to knock it out? And it does. We get the crit. Oh. So level 52. So that was exciting. That was great. Electrode is pretty awesome. Level 52. And there you go. There's our guy. Hall of Fame. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I appreciate all the support so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.